I'd like to understand a little bit about the experiences that you have had as an individual. And I know that this is out there, and I know that you've talked about this, but for my audience, and many of them will be familiar with you, and some might not be. I'd like you to, if you could, just please explain the near death experience that you had. Maybe we start there, and then we'll get into some of the other entities and whatnot that you've seen or interacted with. I'm interested in diving down that rabbit hole, and then of course your general overall philosophy on things. But if you could, maybe we'll kick off with the near death experience.
Yeah, and it's a great place to start because it's what started my whole journey here. But also, the more I started being transparent about it and talking about it, people from all walks of life and ages and backgrounds and cultures came to me with telling me almost identical stories. This is not unique at all, but I had very bad general anxiety disorder, chronic panic attacks, debilitating, and there were so many things I couldn't do in life, like sleep. I had chronic insomnia. I got to the point where I couldn't even drive a car or ride an airplane because my anxiety was so bad. And I tried all the things, nothing was working, and I felt like I was just about to explode at all given times. And that was the biggest problem in my life. And I just heavily medicated with alcohol because that was just the thing that worked. And I was in the corporate world at the time, and it got me through my day. And it worked. It was a Band-Aid, and it was culturally acceptable. Everybody was doing it. And then it got worse and worse and worse and worse, right?
You drinking at work, or you drinking after work, or both? Or
when I was in the corporate world, I had a little bit more managed. Whenever I moved to Florida, and you get out here, and it doesn't matter what what day of the week it is, it doesn't matter what time of the day it is, a totally different culture and vibe. It just poured fuel on the fire. And then when I lost my mom, I definitely just that was the beginning of the end. I mean, at that point, I didn't really care about my future or anything else, and I went in this downward spiral. And I have a beautiful family, and looking back, I mean, I don't know what was in my head, but I walked away from my house. I just completely just threw all these things in my life that I cared about down the drain, and I went in this downward spiral, and I hit rock bottom. And I was laying in my bed and for days. And I was very, very sick. I had pancreatitis. My pain was a 10 out of 10 for over a year. And I was just,
wow.
I was drinking. I mean, it was bad. It was very, very, very bad. It wasn't just like I had a little drinking problem. This was severe.
Okay.
And to the point where my entire body shut down, started having heart failure, liver failure. I couldn't get out of bed for days and days and days. And at that point, I had sanitized. I know this now looking back on it. I had sanitized my consciousness out of my body. I had made my body such an inhospitable place that my consciousness couldn't really be in it anymore. It was too much pain and trauma. And at that point, I was watching all of this from almost like a security camera point of view. It felt like up in the corner of the room. And it was kind of grainy, kind of black and white, kind of like a traditional security camera point of view. And I was out of my body. I was watching me down on the bed. I watched my wife bust in and basically force me into the car and take me to the emergency room. I had BS'd her for a few days, telling her I had the flu and I was just sick. She was working, and I was dying. And my consciousness was no longer in my body. I was watching my body literally die below me and sort of helpless. Anyways, I go to the hospital, and, they admit me. They're telling me I'm not going to make it for the most part. They're doing the tough love thing, but they weren't. It's like when you're on an airplane and you hit turbulence. And I always look at the face of the stewardess. I'm like, if she's worried, then I'm worried. But most of the time they're not. They're like, oh, a little turbulence, no big deal. The faces on the nurses and the doctors was one of concern. It wasn't a good situation.
And were you conscious looking at their faces?
At this point, when they admitted me, I kind of came back into my body.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that would have been a long time out, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But, I even described it. I wrote a book about this, and I described it as when she was driving me to the hospital, my consciousness was outside the car, and it felt like it was flapping like a cape in the wind behind.
Wow.
And that's the feeling that I got.
Wow.
And it was surreal. And it's like, when they're shooting a movie and they have the dolly outside the car, that's what my consciousness was watching me.
Wow.
And so it was out of my body for a while, and it was weird because I don't know if it knew if I was going to make it, And this is actually...
It is you.
It is me.
Yeah.
It is me. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so then when they got me stabilized, they said they had given me more IV sedatives than they'd ever given anybody there before.
Wow.
So I'm setting records. And so they moved me up and they had me stabilized, and I felt like my consciousness was back in my body. And here's where it gets really, really wild. We were visited by this, I don't know what you want to call it, but a blue orb, a blue light. There was a blue light in the room that wasn't coming from any equipment or anything. And I have a photo of it, and I should have given it to y'all before. It's my least favorite picture in the entire world because I look terrible. I mean, I'm damn near dead. But there's this blue light, and it's right off camera, and we're taking a selfie. It's the first time through this whole ordeal. My amazing wife is by my side the whole time. Sarah, she's amazing. She's the reason I'm alive. And she's sitting there, and we take a selfie. And for some reason, I have a sticker on my forehead because I had a company called Alive and Kicking, and I had the wherewithal somehow right before, as I was being dragged out of the house, to grab my Alive and Kicking shirt and a sticker. I don't know. And that was like my rallying cry after that was I'm alive and kicking. But before that, it was just a tagline for my scooter company, you know. But anyway, so I have this sticker on my forehead. I look ridiculous. My eyes are all dilated. But there's this blue orb that's in the room with us. And from that moment on, I had this incredible, like, feeling of relaxation and sort of purpose. Like I knew up to that point, I really thought I was going to die. Like there was no reason for me to survive. And after that point, I was summoning all the nurses, and I'm hooked up with all these machines. They had me, I was a seizure risk because of it turns out I was going through alcohol withdrawals for multiple days leading up to it. I didn't know that. And so I was in really bad shape. So they had me they have the walls up on the thing, and so I can't get out of the bed, and they have me, basically strapped down with all these tubes and stuff, so I can't go anywhere. And I'm summoning everyone in there. I even requested a meeting with the top doctor of the whole floor, and I said, hey, I got to go home. And they're all laughing at me. They're like, dude, you can't walk. You can't do anything. And I was like, I know, but I have work to do. I got to go home. I got to get out of here. I can't heal here. And I somehow, they made me stay the night. And the next day they made me sign all these forms, and they said, against our better judgment, but because Sarah's here and she's such a good caretaker, and because you're so, persuasive and adamant that you leave, they let me go. And they had to wheelchair me out of there. I couldn't walk or anything. Went home. Long road to recovery ahead of me. When I went to my doctor, she thought I needed to go back to the hospital. She thought I was going to die. She said, I'm afraid you're going to stroke out right here. This is not good. So I'm home, but I have this huge mountain to climb. I mean, my body's dying. Everything's shutting down. But the crazy thing is I had this sense of purpose that I'd never had before. So you would think in that state, I would have been just hopeless. Like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I was driven. I was motivated. I was like, I have to answer these questions, and I have to figure this out. And that's what set me on my journey.
Love it. Love it. So a couple of questions. So the blue orb, you saw it with your eyes in addition to the picture? No. Okay.
No, we didn't see it with our eyes at all.
Okay.
Okay.
Love it. Love it.
Oh, such a terrible picture. But you can see that thing.
Not nearly as bad as you made it out to be,
my
actually.
God. I think it's the memory floods back of that moment because it was such a traumatizing moment. But
sure.
You can see how amazing Sarah is and the love there.
Yep.
But so that blue thing, I don't know what it is. And it wasn't coming off any equipment or anything. There's no shadows. There's no anything. And we didn't see it. But the weird thing is that's the only picture that we took in the whole ordeal. And it's there in the picture. But from that moment on, that was when everything changed. Like everything changed. Mm-hmm. So
you think it was just the experience, I mean, in part, right? The experience of being outside of your body and knowing that there is something else, that you are life itself, and that your body is just a body. It's a vessel for you to be in. Do you think that separation was a part of what motivated you to completely change, just the knowing? I mean, so a lot of people, spiritually, if you're religious, you think that you die and that your spirit goes on. And so this is not it's not a disruptive or,
it's not that crazy of an idea.
Unheard of conversation, right? I mean, religions believe that we move on after we die. So to have experienced this and to have separated from your actual physical body is something that has been documented by thousands and thousands of people. I mean, millions of people potentially have had this experience. So, I mean, was it that removal and that knowing that, hey, I am life itself. I am a spiritual energy that kind of guided you towards this new version of yourself in this quest to learn more about the nature of reality.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you can hear people say it, but when it happens to you, it becomes a knowing. It's not a belief anymore.
Right.
And when you know something, like you had a personal, subjective, individual experience that no one can take from you. And I understand the state I was in mentally and physically. Anybody can make an argument that I was just out of my mind or hallucinating or whatever. But
you were out of your mind.
Yeah, right. I was,
Yeah.
or my mind was out of me.
Right, yeah.
But I was
Right.
lucid as can be in my memory. I remember everything very clearly. I don't remember the days leading up to it at all. I don't remember the months leading up to it. But I remember that day like it happened yesterday. This was 6 years ago. And yeah, whenever you have an experience like that, and I've had other ones since then, deliberately through my Monroe training, and you realize this is a repeatable thing and that you can do this, it changes everything. But that first time, it blows those doors open because okay, obviously I didn't mean to do this. This was not part of any sort of a plan, and I would definitely not recommend people go this route. But what it does is it changes your mindset, because now something that you didn't know was possible, you now know is possible. And there's no way to put the toothpaste back in the tube at that point. Now you're more in your physical body because I've been out of my body. And when you're out of your body, I was aware. I was still me. I could still think. And I knew what was going on, which means that me, what is really me, wasn't that thing laying down on the bed. What's really me, the essence of me, was my perception that at that point had been pulled out of my body. So that does change everything. And yeah, it leaves you with millions of questions. And how could you not essentially stop everything you're doing and investigate?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It becomes your life purpose overnight after a life-changing experience
Does.
like that. Yeah.